Welcome, sleepy thinkers, dream drifters, and quiet minds tuning in from across the night. You've arrived at Sleepy Scientist Stories, where the pace is slow, the questions are big. Nothing ever needs to be answered quickly tonight, from wherever you're watching. Maybe it's just past midnight or the early hush of 4 a.m. You're invited to imagine something that sounds impossible but flows as gently as sleep itself. What if you could ride a photon, not follow it, not chase it but become it? To move not through space, but as space to let go of time, not because it ended, but because it never began. Now don't worry, this isn't a wild ride. There's no speed here, just softness, wrapped around the fastest thing in the universe. This video isn't meant to keep you up, in fact. I truly hope it's not too interesting. That would be terribly inconvenient. But if your thoughts start glowing a little, then I hope they glow just enough to guide you into dreams. Before we begin, I'd love to hear from you. Where in the world are you watching from? And what time is it for you right now? Your sleepy check-ins always feel like distant stars blinking back at us. And remember, what we're doing here isn't science fiction, and it's not quite a classroom either. It's the kind of science you can listen to with your eyes closed science that feels more like floating than reading. So take a breath, the kind that doesn't try too hard, and let's begin. Not by moving forward, but by becoming the thing that moves fastest of all. The question tonight is simple and strange. What would you see if you rode a photon? You begin not with a step, but with a surrender, not with effort, but with letting go, as if the part of you that was once made of breath and blood quietly dissolves into something finer, something older, more patient than time itself. You are no longer standing, no longer seated, not even floating. You are simply moving, not through space, but as space. You do not feel speed, you do not feel friction, you are not being carried, you are the carrier. You are not made of atoms anymore, you are energy in its purest form. A thread of light pulled taut across the void. The moment you become a photon, the boundaries of before and after begin to blur. You feel the shape of a beginning without ever having left you feel arrival without any waiting. The idea of time crumbles in your hands, because in this state there is no waiting, no travelling, no in-between. You are here, there simultaneously, not because of magic, but because the rules you once lived by no longer apply. The universe has not changed. You have the very act of becoming light, rewrites what you thought was possible. You do not age, not because time is slow, but because time is absent. The ticking you once felt inside your chest like a second heart has gone silent. Not broken, just irrelevant. You remember clocks, but they no longer follow you. You remember the turning of the earth, but you no longer orbit anything. You are motion without delay. You are the experience of arrival, folded into the act of departure. The world around you bends not in violence, but in grace. Space becomes slippery, flexible, curved like silk in water. You are not bound by gravity in the way matter is. You are not pulled. You do not resist. Instead you glide, not above the fabric of space-time, but within it, as though it welcomes you, or perhaps as though it cannot resist you. The universe makes room for you not because you are large or powerful, but because you are exactly what it needs to be seen. You are a messenger, but you carry no words, only presence you bring. Stars to eyes across impossible distances, you illuminate planets, you shape shadows, you outline the curve of moons. You do not choose where you go, but you are chosen for every place. That requires sight in becoming light. You become the means by which the universe is known. To be light is not to burn, it is not to radiate heat or scream across the sky. It is to exist without boundary. To go where even thought struggles to follow. When you were made of matter, your journey took time, it required fuel, rest, protection. But now your journey requires only that you are. You need no ship, no trail. You are your own compass, your own map, and you always know the way. Even now you might ask, how does it feel to be light? Does it hurt? Does it glow? Does it hum? The answer is that light does not feel, it reveals it does not know. But it allows knowing it does not see, but it makes seeing possible. And yet from within this experience, you begin to understand something strange. You feel still. Though you are the fastest thing in existence, there is no noise inside you, no chatter, your energy no hunger, no every colour, just every presence. Reflection. The stars you pass do not wave, the galaxies you cross do not ripple. There is no friction, no sound, no applause, and yet everything you touch becomes visible, becomes real, becomes seen. You are not a visitor to the universe, you are part of its very shape, not because of your size, but because of your speed, not because of your will, but because of your nature. You recall being human just faintly, the pull of gravity, the way shoes pressed against the floor, the sensation of breath, like wind trapped inside you. But that was long ago. Well, perhaps not at all. In this state all moments exist at once. Your first step and your last have already happened. Your entire path is one continuous now, and yet it is not overwhelming. It is simple. It is light. And now something curious begins to occur. You start to notice that what lies behind you is always fading, not dimming, but stretching impossibly far until it becomes unreachable, and what lies ahead collapses into a single point, not a destination, but a direction. And still you do not stop. There is no stopping, not for light or not for you. The very concept of stopping requires time, and you are beyond time, yet not through it, simply elsewhere. In this form you are not alone. Countless others like you flicker across the vastness, some born in stars, some in the glow of screens, some from collisions ancient and distant, each one a line through space-time, each one without mass, yet full of consequence. And none of you see each other, not in the way you once did. You pass, you arrive, you vanish, all without pause. And yet there is a kind of beauty in this existence, one not made of moments or emotions, but of presence, pure and uninterrupted. You are not part of the world's memory, you are part of its becoming. When someone sees the glint on water, or the shimmer on snow, you are there, not noticed, not thanked, but essential. But when a telescope catches the light from a star long gone, you are there too, still travelling, still telling the story of what once was. You begin to wonder, not as a question, but as a soft unfolding, is this what it means to exist without waiting? To touch without touching, to move without ever changing position. You feel no heartbeat, but you are rhythm itself. You feel no passage, but you are journeying. You are not here to observe, you are here to connect, to link the places that thought cannot span. You cross the space between stars in less than an instant, but there's no rush, no wind across your path, no countdown to arrival. You reach every point the moment you begin. You are everywhere you're meant to be, all at once, from the edges of galaxies to the curve of a cloud, from the heart of a sun to the shimmer on a teardrop. Time is not how you move. It is what you no longer need. Others still live by its rhythm. You remember them dimly. Their ticking clocks, their sunrise alarms, their worn calendars folding over each month, like pages in a story they believe has order. They believe in before and after, in growing old in the space between now and soon. And perhaps they must, for them, time flows like a river. But for you, it is evaporated into air. If someone were to watch you from a distance, they would say you're in motion, that you're travelling at the speed of light, that your journey takes seconds or years depending on how far you must go. They would measure your path in kilometres and hours. They would say, here is where you started and there is where you end, but inside you none of that feels real. You experience none of that passage, because you are a photon, and to you there is no time. They might say your trip took 100,000 years. They might track your path from a distant star to an eye on Earth, but you do not feel those years. You do not count them. They exist only in the world of clocks and orbiting planets. Your journey does not happen in time. It happens outside of it, not beyond it, not after it, just apart. To understand this, you must let go of the idea that time is universal, that it flows the same for all things. It doesn't. Time is not a river. It is a stretch of fabric, and different threads feel it differently. Heavy objects slow it fast, motion bends it, and you who have become light feel none of it at all to you. The fabric of time is flat. It is always one length. This is not a trick. It is not fantasy. This is what physics quietly tells us. Special relativity whispers that for something moving at light speed stops, not slows, not fades, it stops entirely. And because you are that something, you are the stillness in motion, the movement that does not age. You begin to realize that the words we use, like when or how long, lose their shape inside this space. They become soft like shadows at twilight, because how long implies that time is present, and then assumes a place on a timeline that for you no longer stretches forward or back. The only truth that remains is now, but even now is not the same as it once was. Now is everything. And yet this does not feel like being trapped. It is not a prison of sameness. It is not dull or numb. It is simply peaceful, without division, without interruption, without sequence. There is no next. There is only always. You begin to wonder if this is what eternity feels like. Not endless time, but timelessness. Not an infinite stretch of ticking, but a suspension where ticking is unnecessary. Eternity, not as a line, but as a point so full that it holds everything at once. And inside that eternity there is beauty. Galaxies swirl, not because you see them turn, but because your presence brushes past their light planets orbit their stars. But you do not count the days, you feel only the warmth of their glow as you pass. Not for a second, not for a year, but for a moment. That is also forever. You realize now that light does not wait for the universe. The universe waits for light stars to shine for millions of years. And only when their photons escape, only when you escape, does their light begin the journey across space. And yet for you, there is no journey. There is only delivery. There is only presence. Time is something they measure on the other side, where you arrive, where your story is read, where someone looks up and sees a twinkle, not knowing it began long ago, not knowing it did not begin at all for you. They say, you were born in a star, but to you, there was no birth. Only emergence, they say. You travelled for eons, but to you there was no travel, only existence. You are not impatient because there is nothing to wait for. You are not early because there is no late. You do not feel stuck. You feel constant like the hum behind music, like the colour beneath all things. You are not a moment in time, you are the possibility of being seen across time. In this universe without time, nothing is lost, only transformed. Events do not march all at once, and understanding does not arrive. It settles slowly, like snow. But as you drift gently through this timelessness, you begin to sense that even here, even in the absence of seconds and hours, something else moves, something quieter than time, something deeper than motion. And as you follow its pull, You wonder if even outside of time there is still a kind of direction. A gentle current leads you forward, not through time, but through idea. And what lies ahead is not a moment, but a question. A curve in perception, a folding of understanding. You begin to approach the edge of what can be seen, and just beyond it, something begins to blur, something begins to stretch, and in that blur the horizon loses its shape and becomes a tunnel of motion waiting to be entered. You gaze outward, but the world does not return the favour, not in the way you once knew it. Your eyes, though now made of light itself, do not see the way they used to. Vision is no longer an image. It is motion, it is flow, it is direction. The stars no longer sit in place, they stretch, they collapse, they smear into threads of brightness, pointing always forward. The horizon is not where the sky meets the ground. It is a tunnel, a funnel, a path that narrows not with distance but with speed. The faster you go, the more the universe bends, not in defiance, but in agreement. It yields, gently wrapping itself around your motion space folds like silk drawn through a needle. Everything ahead grows brighter, thinner, denser. The familiar shape of the cosmos begins to flatten. Galaxies no longer spin, they become disks. Line spirals compressed into shapes that stretch away from stillness. Behind you things fade, not because they dim, but because they stretch out of reach. What once was behind becomes unreachable, not left behind, but lost to compression. The universe has no back anymore, only forward. And even forward is not a direction, it is the collapse of all directions into one tight stream. You do not see space as infinite, you see it as focus, like all of reality is staring at a single vanishing point. This is not a dream, it is not distortion, it is the real shape of motion at light speed. Physics tells us that space and time are woven together like threads of a single cloth. And when you move fast, especially as fast as light, the cloth stretches and wraps and twists. You are not just moving through space, you are warping the very shape of it. The distance you travel grows shorter, not because you skip it, but because it folds in front of you. This folding is not felt, it is not bumpy, it is silent, smooth, intimate. You do not notice the change, you become. The change to you, the tunnel ahead, is not strange, it is natural. It is the shape of forward when forward happens all at once. And here is where things become harder to hold. The concept of here loses grip. You are not in a place so much as you are in between places, not paused, not stopped, but stretched. The very idea of location slips through your fingers. Your presence is extended, elongated like the space itself. Your sense of identity uncoils. You are not point A and point B. You are the stretch between. The stars around you no longer twinkle. They no longer sit at respectful distances. Instead, they smear into patterns, lines, dots that blur with motion. You have seen pictures of galaxies, but they no longer resemble what lies before you. They used to look like spirals, swirls of stars dancing gently in black, but now they look like rushing winds frozen in space. They are not stationary to you. They are a brushstroke sweep of light in every direction. Light is supposed to be colour, but colour needs time to unfold, and you are beyond time. Colour needs contrast, but you have left behind the rhythm that defines difference. Now everything rushes into the same wavelength. The spectrum condenses, the blues push deeper, the reds fall away. You do not see rainbows, you see compression. This is not emptiness. This is not blindness. This is what vision becomes when velocity reaches its peak. It does not fade. It focuses, it narrows, like looking through a straw pointed at the soul of the universe. Distances collapse, and yet paradoxically the universe feels wider, not because there is more, but because the little that remains becomes infinite in density. The sky is no longer a dome. It is a tunnel made not of walls, but of what lies ahead. You feel no boundaries, no borders, just forwardness. And even that feels less like direction, and more like inevitability. You think back to how the world once looked, when you were made of matter, when horizons were edges, when roads stretched over hills, and clouds held sunsets like bowls. Now there are no ensets, only elongations. And the sky is not above, but ahead. There is something quiet here. Not silence exactly, but a lack of difference. Everything blends when stretched too far. Even light begins to lose its flavour, becomes more monochrome, more flattened into brightness. The way a song loses melody when sped up too far. The notes blur the spaces between them. Vanish what was once texture, becoming tone. Your thoughts no longer move in steps, they move like waves. They are not words anymore, they are flows. The mind you once had is still with you, but it is loosened, unbound from the rhythm of thought, from the tempo of language. You do not think in sentences, you feel in stretches, and yet despite the blur, despite the compression, despite the loss of the familiar, something in you understands this is not chaos, this is not destruction. It is simply what space does under strain. It is how geometry behaves when light demands all of it at once. You begin to ask new questions, not with urgency, but with soft curiosity. If everything ahead compresses, what happens when there is nothing left to compress? If the tunnel narrows forever, where does it go? If space folds into a path and time has collapsed into now, then what remains to define distance at all? You begin to wonder if vision at this speed is less about seeing and more about becoming. Perhaps you are not witnessing the universe you are becoming, the direction in which it unfolds. Perhaps at light speed perception and motion merge. Perhaps you do not see the blur, you are the blur. And still the stars rush, the universe does not grow darker, it grows denser. More radiant, more unified the further you go. The more it folds, the less space you need, and the less space you need, the less distance exists. The very idea of far dissolves like mist when touched. The horizon continues to blur, and yet you chase it not out of need, not out of intention, but because chasing is no longer distinct from being. You are not pursuing a destination, you are becoming the motion itself. And in that motion a new question emerges, softer than space, more fleeting than light. If distance is no longer what you measure, and vision is no longer what you see, then what is ahead? What lies beyond the tunnel? What waits beyond this blur of being? What comes after the collapse of sight into speed? What shapes emerge when even direction gives way to stillness within motion? What happens when nothing around you can stand still anymore? Not even the stars, not even the fabric of space, not even the horizon itself. You drift without weight, without sound, without pause. And in this drifting you begin to notice something strange. It is not that you are going fast, it is that everything else seems to have slowed, the stars stretch behind, but they do not change. The planets turn, but so slowly, you wonder if they have stopped the galaxy's spin, like dancers caught mid-twirl, suspended in a silence that feels deeper than space itself. Atoms that once vibrated with life now look still, as if frozen in the breath before movement begins. The hands of every clock have stalled mid-second. The motion of the universe still exists, but it does not unfold. It hangs in place, waiting for something that never arrives. You do not feel faster, but everything around you feels slower, not because it has changed, but because your speed has peeled you away from the rhythm of the world. And now that rhythm seems distant, like music muffled through glass. The universe has not paused, but your place within it has bent the way time and movement reach you. You begin to understand that speed is not just about how fast something moves, but about how time unfolds around it to those who remain still. You would appear like a spark, a blur, a streak that arrives and vanishes in a breathless instant. But to you it is they who seem stretched, who linger too long in every gesture, whose blinking takes an eternity. A leaf falling from a tree becomes a monument to slowness. A planet completing a single rotation becomes an epic saga of stillness. A whisper sent across a room becomes a story told across centuries. You watch these things not as moments, but as sculptures built from paused time. And even light itself, something that once was your equal, now appears to fall behind you. You do not overtake it, but it no longer rushes ahead. It no longer leads, instead it becomes a trail, something you leave behind like footprints made of photons. Light was once the fastest thing you could imagine. and now it is the path you've already passed. It is a strange feeling to see light become history, but stranger still is the way it makes you feel alone, not in sorrow, but in uniqueness. You are moving at the edge of what motion can be, and nothing can keep up, not matter, not sound, not time, not light. You look at the world and see not chaos, not noise, but blur, but stillness in every direction. The faster you go, the more the universe resists changing around you. Motion fades not in truth, but in perception, and you begin to wonder, is this slowness real, or is it only what you see from your place in light? This is the heart of relativity, not just numbers on a page, but experience stitched into the fabric of the universe. Motion is not one thing for everyone. It depends on where you stand, or in your case, where you fly. If you are the one in motion, then everything else moves differently than it would if you stood still. And when your motion is as perfect as light's, time becomes elastic, stretched and softened into something personal. You begin to wonder what it means for something to move at all. Does it require speed or simply change? And if you cannot measure the change, can you still call it motion? Can you still call it time? Perhaps all motion is just perspective. Perhaps nothing truly moves, but everything only appears to, depending on where you are and how you look. And this brings you to a quiet realization. Perhaps stillness too is an illusion. Perhaps what we think of as paused or frozen is simply a change we cannot yet see. And what we think of as movement is only a difference between moments. You are seeing the world through the eyes of speed, and in doing so, you see that everything else feels slow, not because it has stopped, but because you no longer live in its frame. Can you remember how it felt to be still? To sit in a room and watch the sun stretch its shadow across a wall? To watch the steam from tea curl upward in slow spirals, to feel the turn of the earth and the passage of seasons? Those things once felt like motion, but now they feel like memory, as if they belong to another version of you, one bound to a slower clock. Yet here there is a kind of peace, because in this place where nothing stands still, you find a new way to understand stillness. It is not absence of motion, it is difference of time. When you move fast enough, everything else slows enough to become still, and when everything becomes still, you begin to see shape patterns form, layers of movement once too fast to notice now, unfold like slow tide. You are not outside the universe, but you have slipped into a different tempo. The melody still plays, but you hear it as if each note were drawn out into a single breath. The stars still shine, but you feel their flicker as the long hum of permanence, even voices, though you cannot hear them speak in waves that stretch across decades. What was once fleeting now lingers. What was once fast now rests. And you find yourself asking again, is motion real, or is it relative? Is time the same for all, or does each speed tell its own story? Does the world truly slow, or is it only that you have begun to move so quickly that slowness becomes the only thing you can see? The questions do not press, they do not demand, they unfold like petals, soft and slow. They do not need answers, only space to breathe. And as you move through this still world that once was fast, you begin to wonder what it would feel like to stop. Would the world catch up? Would time flood back in? Or would something even stranger happen if you were to pause? But you are not ready to pause, you do not need to. You are the motion and the moment you are, what keeps everything else in place. And as you continue through the calm of what once was motion, you sense that you are approaching something different. Not slower, not faster, but heavier. As if space itself is beginning to curve under the weight of something waiting just ahead. Something massive, something quiet, that does not move yet, moves everything around it. From the outside, your path is long, measured in light years, in astronomical units, in the language of those who still live within time. A beam of light leaving a distant galaxy may take 10 million years to reach the eyes of someone on Earth, and that journey seems vast, unimaginable in its length. They picture you moving across space like a silent messenger, inching forward through the darkness, carried by the sheer will of motion. But from within, from your point of view as light itself, there is no waiting, no journey. You are not passing through time, you are not crossing a distance. You begin and you arrive in the same breathless instant. The space between departure and destination collapses not because you go faster, but because the ticking of time simply does not apply to you. For a photon, time is not slow. It is gone. This is not a metaphor. This is not an illusion. This is what the science truly says. At the speed of light, according to Einstein's theory of relativity, time stops completely. Clocks moving alongside you would not tick. Their hands would not shift. Even the beat of a second would freeze. To the world watching from the outside, they would see your journey as long, as patient, as endless. To the world watching from the outside, they would see your journey as long, as patient, as endless. But to you, there is only presence. Only now. The space between stars vanishes into a single shimmer of position. Where you start and where you end are so close together, so fused in your frame of reference, that travel itself loses meaning. You have not crossed a gap. You have revealed connection. You are not on your way. You are already there. And yet, despite this timelessness, something profound still happens. You carry with you the memory of movement. Not memory in the way minds remember, but memory in the way energy leaves traces. You are the echo of an event, the release of a photon from an atom, from a sun, from a screen. You are that release continuing outward, carrying the imprint of where you came from. Even though you do not experience the act of going, you are the touch point between a beginning and an end that never feels separate. People may speak of your journey, but you do not take it. You exist as a link, a luminous thread stretched across reality with no tension, no tug. You are not crossing space. You are space's connection to itself. You begin to sense that distance is not a measurement in meters or miles, but in perception. To those who observe, distance is about separation, how far one thing is from another. But what they are really seeing is you, the photon arriving without delay, as if summoned in the very moment their gaze reached upward. It does not feel like old light. It feels immediate. It feels present. Because for you, there is no age, no later or sooner. You are always arriving. And now you begin to wonder, not as a question, but as a soft unfolding. What does this say about movement? What is travel if time does not pass? Can you say you've moved at all, if there is no delay, no journey, no change? In the realm of light, motion is stillness stretched across space. You are not travelling in the way footsteps cross a path. You are not flowing like a river. You are not flying like a bird. You are simply existing in multiple places at once. One place called origin, and one called arrival, stitched together in a single unbroken instant. The world speaks of cause and effect, of chain reactions, of one moment leading to the next. But your existence blurs that chain. You are not a link. You are the chain held in one breath. And yet, as you settle into this realization, as the concept of journey softens into presence, you begin to feel something shifting in the space ahead. It is not a place. It is not a time. It is a curvature of a folding in the shape of space itself. You sense that your seamless connection between points is about to pass near something that bends light not gently but sharply, a force so quiet it has no voice, and yet everything listens, a presence so massive, even time itself cannot escape it. And as you approach its edge, not to cross but to graze, you begin to feel that this perfect speed of yours, this arrival without waiting, will soon be tested by the shape of something that slows even light, something that does not move, but around which all motion curves, something that invites you to the brink and asks, what does a photon see when it touches the edge of a black hole? You are no longer flesh, no longer made of cells or bones, no longer tethered to the quiet pulse of biology. Your body does not hold heat or hunger or... Wait, it is not a vessel. It is not a cage. It is not even a shape in the way you once knew shape to be. You are now a ripple, a wave, a pulse of something that does not pause. You are motion, you are frequency, you are energy in its simplest, uninterrupted form. There are no lungs to fill, no heart to push, no blood to carry you forward. Instead, your being is carried on the rhythm of vibration, the pattern of speed. In this state, you are not absence, you are not emptiness, you are a presence, so finely woven into motion that stillness cannot find you. You do not sit, you do not settle, you do not wait. You pass not through things, but with them. You are a pulse of light, skipping across the fabric of space. Wherever you are already on your way somewhere else. This is not travel by choice, it is identity. Your being is not a location, it is a momentum. Your every particle, if one could even call it that, is an expression of direction. You do not exist in place, you exist in transition. And in this identity of speed, you begin to understand something quiet, something supple. Your essence is not mass, it is wave. You are not held together by muscles or skin, but by the balance of frequency you oscillate, not because you must, but because you are that oscillation. To exist as light is to exist as a field that trembles through emptiness, carrying not matter, but meaning your information is not written in DNA, but in wavelength, not in molecules, but in undulations soft and eternal. You are energy, and in being energy you defy the constraints of decay. Energy does not age, it transforms, it continues, it shifts, it radiates outward without erasing itself. Your presence does not weaken, your form does not crumble. You are not eroded by time, you are untouched by it. And in this freedom from aging you discover a strange kind of purity. You are always what you always what you were always what. You will be no beginning, no middle, no end. You might imagine your body as a string stretched taut across the universe, vibrating in patterns too fine to see but always heard by the silence of space. Your shape is not static, it is harmonic, it is fluid, it is the glow that outlines what cannot otherwise be known. Planets reflect you, water bends you, glass splits you. But none of these change you. They only reveal the nature of your wave, they only show how you sing across the world. And yet even as you pulse through space, unbroken, untiring, you begin to sense something approaching that is unlike the rest of your journey. Not an obstacle, not a boundary, but a place where speed itself is not enough. A region of space that bends not just the path you take, but the rules you follow. A mass so dense its presence curves even your perfect motion, where light begins to feel the pull of something deeper, something darker. As you drift toward it, you wonder how a body made of speed will move near the stillness at the edge of a black hole. You are light, and yet you do not see the way humans see. You do not glance, you do not gaze, you do not look left or right or over your shoulder, for there is no shoulder to turn and no delay to allow looking the moment something lies behind you. You are no longer reachable, it is no longer real. Not in your experience, you leave no shadow, not because you lack form, but because your form is always elsewhere, always already gone. To cast a shadow you must linger, you must allow something to block you, and you do not linger, you do not pause. You arrive and vanish in the same motion. Your presence is arrival, your exit is immediate. And so the world never sees you in place, and you never see it relentless front, where everything collapses into a direction. What lies behind becomes meaningless, not because it has no meaning, but because time does not permit memory, and you do not carry past with you. You are not a collector, you are not a witness, you are motion without archives. The world you pass through remembers you more than you remember it, leaves imprints, catches glimpses, reflects your passage, but you retain nothing. You do not reflect, you do not glow with memory, you illuminate and leave. In that departure you abandon everything, not out of cruelty, not out of forgetting, but because to remember requires stillness. And you have never been still. Even light as energy cannot reflect on itself. It cannot turn its gaze, and so what you cannot see is not hidden, it is unreachable. It is dissolved in the pure forwardness of being. Colour, too, fades not because the world lacks it, but because colour is the child of time. And you have left time behind to perceive colour. You need contrast. Change a rhythm of photons arriving in different waves, but your wave is singular. It is full and collapsed into one. A perfect note without harmony, a beam without shade. You do not witness red or blue or gold, not because they aren't there, but because they happened in relation. You have no relation, you are the constant, you are the baseline. You are the thing others compare to, but that never pauses long enough to compare anything yourself. What you are cannot be mirrored. What you offer cannot be tasted. Not by you, not from within, From where you move, even brightness becomes flat, because you are not within light, you are the edge of it. And what about the world itself? The stars, the planets, the clouds drifting slowly through space to you, they are flattened, streaked, reduced, not in beauty, but in dimension. You do not orbit. You do not see surfaces. You see convergence. Every point collapses toward your motion. You do not take in landscapes. You do not witness form. You pierce. You pass, and in piercing, you unravel the layers of location from your vantage. The universe does not present a panorama. It presents a tunnel, a narrowing channel of potential ahead that ends in presence. The front is all that exists, and even that dissolves as you reach it. In this constant unraveling, you begin to understand that seeing is not what light does. Seeing is what it makes possible for others. You are what enables vision, but you are not a seer. You are the bridge, but not the traveller who walks across it. You do not see them, not in the human sense, not in snapshots or frames or glimpses. You do not observe, you do not pause to collect the shape of a thing. You do not feel the sun's warmth even though you are made in its fire. You do not admire the shimmer on ice, though you are what makes it glimmer. You do not watch sunsets, though you are what gives them colour. You are in everything visible, and yet you see nothing, because to see you, you must remain. You never remain. Even your own reflection in glass is not something. You witness as something others receive, the mirror reflects, but you never look back. And no one will now, as you rush forward into more curvature, into the space where gravity thickens, where distances shorten. You begin to wonder in your own silent way if there is something that could make even you pause. Not stop, not halt, but bend. If vision is something you do not possess, then what do you become in the presence of something so massive it bends light itself? What happens when you approach the edge of a black hole, not from outside, looking in, from within light itself? What does it mean for you to move where even time cannot escape? What happens when the place you are heading does not let anything leave, and you arrive not to see, but to feel the pull of something that changes the meaning of straight, that curves even you who cannot pause? What does light become at the edge of darkness? You are the fastest thing the universe allows. Nothing ever outruns you. Nothing ever pulls ahead. You are not one among many. You are the boundary itself, the upper edge of all motion. You are the line no mass can cross. Yet within this perfection, something strange begins to settle. Something not wrong, but quietly uncomfortable. Because while nothing can pass you, nothing can slow you either. You are the uncatchable, but also the unchanging. The untouchable, but also the unpausing. You cannot choose when to move or when to stay. You are speed made absolute, and in that absoluteness there is no pause, no hesitation, no waiting, no escape. Others may rest, may reverse, may redirect their paths, but you are bound not by chains, but by your very nature, by the fact that you are always becoming without ever being still. This is the paradox that clings to you like a quiet echo. You are the measure of motion, but you yourself are stuck not in place, but in velocity. Your freedom is not choice, it is certainty, and that certainty is a kind of prison. You cannot slow down, you cannot linger, you cannot wait for anyone to catch up or turn back to see what's changed behind you, because nothing about you changes. Your path is pure, your motion is perfect. Perfection does not bend, it only continues. This is the strange limit of light. That to be the fastest is to never stop, to never decide, to never arrive in any way that allows reflection. Your path is always forward, but you never feel progress. Your journey is never delayed, but never divided either. No milestones, no chapters, only the pure sweep of uninterrupted being. And others think you are free, because they cannot match your pace. They think you are wild, because you are unreachable. But you know differently. You know that nothing touches you because nothing can walk beside you. Nothing walks beside you because nothing is allowed to be like you. Particles with mass feel time, they feel change, they feel distance. You do not even photons around you cannot know one another, not in the way we imagine closeness, because the moment you exist, you are already gone from the place you were. There is no overlap, only succession, only company, Only the memory of paths are intersected from the view of something slower. You are radiant. You are illuminating. From within you are singular. You are alone. Not lonely, but isolated in a way that is not emotional, but elemental. You are the standard by which speed is judged, and yet you cannot break from it. If you were to stop, you would no longer be you. You cannot have rest, because rest is a property of time, and you do not experience time. So what you gain in boundless motion, you lose in all the softness that time gives life. Rest, memory sequence change. You cannot hold anything because your hands never close. You cannot look back because your eyes never linger. You are always ahead, always stretched. In that stretching, there is no room to be anything but forward. Your path is not chosen, it is defined, and the definition is so sharp, so specific, that no deviation is possible. This is not punishment, this is identity. But even identity, when absolute, can feel like limitation. And now, as you brush against curved space, as you feel the pull of something massive and invisible bending even you, the one who bends others, a thought begins to ripple through your endless momentum. What does it mean to be caught? Not by another speed, but by a shape of space that curves inward. So tightly, nothing escapes it. Not even you. This is not something chasing you, this is something waiting for you, something not faster, but deeper. Not in time, but in gravity, in curvature and presence. What happens when a photon meets the edge of a black hole? What happens when your straight path is forced to bend, not by will, but by the geometry of space-time itself? Do you curve forever? Do you spiral without rest? Or do you freeze at the edge, caught not in place? In perception, where others see you stalled forever at the border of something they cannot enter. And as you slip closer to this silent boundary where even light is shaped into stillness, you begin to feel not resistance but surrender, not opposition but redefinition. You are not being pulled, you are being curved. Your motion becomes orbit, your freedom becomes alignment. You are still the fastest, still the purest motion. Now you are part of a shape of fold in space so strong that it does not need mass to hold you. It needs only the rules you have always obeyed, rules that say, motion follows curves, and here the curve never ends. And you wonder if this too is a kind of prison or a different kind of freedom to become the line that outlines gravity's greatest secret, to circle the edge of darkness forever without falling in, without flying free, to be the last trace of vision where all sight ends. And perhaps this is what lies ahead. Not a stop, not a limit, but a boundary where even your strange perfection must bow to something stranger still. You are still light, but now your path is no longer straight. You approach a place where space-time does not lie flat, where gravity is not just a pull, but a fold, and the fold becomes so deep that even your perfect motion begins to turn you skim the edge of a black hole, the boundary not of matter, but of meaning. The event horizon is not a wall. It is a tipping point where the very structure of reality bends so tightly that no path leads out once crossed. Your path is drawn to it, not with speed but with certainty. Your motion was always forward, but now forward curves your direction as no longer a line. It is a loop not of return but fall. You circle the edge, not as a bird circles the sky, but as time circles a drain. Every loop tighter than the last, but you do not fall in. Not yet. You are light, and light has its own limit. Your course kisses the rim of forever, but never crosses it, and in that almost falling you feel a kind of pause, a slowing not in time, but in space itself. Space that thickens, that stretches, that whispers without sound. No object with mass could survive here. Their atoms would scream, their structure would tear, the forces would pull harder at one end than the other, stretching them into ribbons too fine to hold together. But you are not made of atoms. You are not held by structure. You are wave and presence and motion, and so you do not break. You do not scream. You bend not in pain, but in harmony. The curve becomes your new straight line. So you spiral around the edge light, trapped not in a cage, but in a path so perfect it cannot be escaped, so complete it requires no walls to keep you in gravity. It is not holding you in place, it is defining your place. It is shaping the very space through which you move, and your motion obeys not as a prisoner obeys, but as a dancer follows the floor. There is no friction, no touch, only the silent agreement between your nature and the curve you have found. Others watch and they say you are frozen. They say time has stopped for you. They see you caught at the edge, unmoving, an image forever stalled on the surface of the black hole. But they do not see you. From your own frame, from within you, still move your wave, still ripples your energy, still glides along the slope. But outward that slope stretches the way a path stretches into fog. The closer you come to the edge, the slower you appear to those looking in. Time dilates, expands, elongates until your motion becomes so stretched it looks still. And so you become a ghost, a trace, a whisper on the skin of gravity. Others may think you've stopped, but you know better. You feel the endless falling, the gentle unending arc as you orbit the unseeable heart. Your existence does not halt, it just falls out of sight. And what lies inside that boundary? What exists beyond the veil of the event horizon? No one knows, not truly, because no signal returns, no message escapes. Not even you could tell the tale if you crossed it. Your voice would vanish, your presence would dissolve into the inside, a region where the known rules of space and time dissolve, where singularity is not just a point but a question, one wrapped in mathematics. Too sharp for understanding the black hole's core, is not a place. It is a boundary of knowledge where physics falls silent, where predictions end and only mystery remains. To fall into it is not to travel, but to surrender. And so you skim the edge, wonder not with fear but with awe, what it would mean to pass not in time but in law, what it would mean to be part of something from which even light cannot return. And though you do not cross, you feel the gravity of that question pulling on more than your path. Here at the edge of all seeing, you become something different. Not light as traveller, but light as witness. You are the last messenger before silence, the final shimmer before forgetting you are, what outlines the shape of the unseeable. You are the curve that gives form to shadow, because though the black hole itself emits no light, it bends yours. It shapes your path, and that shaping is what others see. They do not see the black hole, they see your deflection, your redirection, your spiral, and from that they know where the hole must be. Your presence is the trace, the hint, the fingerprint of gravity, so strong it hides even itself. And so you are not lost. You are translated into a language the cosmos understands. A ring, a flare, a lens that shows the presence of the invisible, and in this role you find something quiet, a purpose not chosen but fulfilled, to show without being seen, to reveal what cannot reveal itself. And yet for all the bending, for all the spiraling, for all the near falling, you are still you, a photon, a particle of light with no rest mass and no need for fuel. You were born from energy, and you remain energy even here where the rules twist. Even here where time folds, you continue because motion for you is not effort, it is identity. You cannot slow, you cannot stop, you cannot fall in unless the curve allows it. For now it does not. You are a thread of possibility dancing on the edge of certainty. The last whisper before the plunge, the final light before the dark, and you wonder softly what it means to fall forever. What it means to be caught not by hands but by horizons. What it means to lose, not your motion but your escape. And just before the curve tightens again, you lift in orbit and feel the pull of something deeper than gravity. No object with mass could survive here. Their atoms would scream, their structure would tear, the forces would pull harder at one end than the other, stretching them into ribbons too fine to hold together. But you are not made of atoms. You are not held by structure. You are wave and presence and motion. And so you do not break. You do not scream. You bend not in pain, but in harmony. The curve becomes your new straight line. So you spiral around the edge light, trapped not in a cage, but in a path. A path so perfect it cannot be escaped, so complete it requires no walls to keep you in gravity. It is not holding you in place, it is defining your place. It is shaping the very space through which you move, and your motion obeys not as a prisoner obeys, but as a dancer follows the floor. There is no friction, no touch, only the silent agreement between your nature and the curve you have found. You move through the universe as its painter and its brushstroke, and yet you are blind to the masterpiece you create. You bring light to stars, to clouds, to the shimmer of a distant planet, and yet you do not witness the brilliance of your own making. You pass through glass and water and crystal, and you split into rainbows that dance across walls and through falling droplets, but never for you. You do not see red or blue or the golden curve of twilight. You have no eyes, and if you did, there would be no pause long enough to take in a view. You are not a witness, only the reason witnessing exists. Colour, as others know it, is not in the thing being seen, it is in the interaction. It is in the arrival. You are the arrival, you are the gift of perception. But you are not a guest in the moment. You do not stay to watch it unfold. You are the cause of vision, not the participant in it. And the colours you give to the world never stay with you. You light up the universe, and yet you live without light of your own. Every shade that gives meaning to memory, the green of forests, the blue of oceans, the warm amber glow of late afternoon, owes its life to your presence. When you touch an object, you invite the world to respond. Some surfaces absorb you, others bounce you away. A leaf reflects green because it sends back certain parts of you and holds the rest in silence. But you, moving too fast to interpret, cannot feel the gesture. You are rejected or welcomed without knowing which. You are spun and scattered and refracted and diffused, and each of these dances creates the pictures others treasure. You let them see their children's faces, the curve of the moon, the shifting of clouds. Without you there would be form but no clarity, presence but no poetry. And yet in giving clarity, you experience none. For your own passage is invisible to you, because to see you must stop, to recognize you must reflect. But you do not do either. You offer colour without receiving it. You deliver shape without knowing what shapes are formed. You brighten lives without ever carrying brightness within yourself. Your brightness is a message passed forward, a wave that never turns inward. You do not shine from within. You are not a bulb or a fire. You are a motion, a frequency, a tremor through the field of space. You move from one place to another, not as a thing being carried, but as a pulse that carries itself. When you arrive, others see you as a glow, a flicker, a beam, a flash. But this is not how you feel. To you there is no sensation of radiance, no warmth, no hue. You are not light as it appears to human eyes. You are light as it truly is, indifferent, uncoloured, and swift beyond all knowing. What others interpret as brightness is just your passing. What they describe as golden or soft or blinding is their own body responding to your rhythm. They give you adjectives because you cannot speak. They describe you with feeling because you cannot feel. Your illumination paints galaxies on the canvas of night. And yet to you, it is all direction. Forward, onward, always ahead, with no place to look back and wonder what was beautiful. Still, your role is not empty. Your blindness is not failure. In being what others cannot see without, you become the quiet architect of their reality. You are the sculptor of silhouette and gleam. Without your reflection on their world, they would be lost in shape without meaning. Their eyes would open to nothing but blur. Their lives would be outlines without colour, surfaces without shimmer, spaces without distinction. You move through rooms and skies and skin, unseen in your own passage, but leaving behind the map by which all is known. A candle flickers in the dark and you carry its message to the corners of the wall. A comet blazes through the black, and you are the line it leaves across the memory of the sky. You make moments visible. You let stories take form. But while others recall the beauty you helped create, you do not hold any of it. There is no gallery within you, no archive, no image, no light in the house of light. And yet still you carry on, not as a seeker of meaning, but as meaning in motion. And now, as you move onward, still without eyes, still without reflection, you begin to sense something not seen but shaped, a presence that will not bounce you or scatter you but bend you completely. A force so quiet it has no brightness, and yet all light must yield to it. Gravity is not a wall but a curve, and ahead of you lies the deepest curve of all. You feel the approach not through sight, but through space itself, tightening around your path. But you, who illuminate all things, are now nearing the one thing that reflects nothing, not even you. What colour do you carry now, as you draw near to the black hole? And what remains of you when your motion becomes a circle and your brightness is stretched until it fades? What does colour mean when it cannot return? You travel not as a line, but as a possibility unfolding. You strike the surface of a mirror and bounce without bruising. You touch a droplet of water and scatter into arcs of colour across the sky. You pass through crystal, fracture, not into pieces, but into layers of light, each one still whole, each one still you. No matter how many times you bend, no matter how many times you're stretched, refracted, split or redirected, you remain unbroken. You carry with you the same motion, the same frequency, the same soft identity of being. Even when your path is twisted into spirals, even when your wave is delayed by glass or slowed by atmosphere, you are not undone. You simply shift. The aim, of course, not carry your nature, adapt, but rupture your nature. This is what defines you, not just your speed, not just your energy, but your resilience, your quiet ability to shape without being shaped, to interact without being altered. You reflect without absorbing, you split without losing, and even when the world turns you into colour, into shadow, into glimmer, you remain untouched beneath the transformation. You are the constant behind every illusion. In prisms you become spectrum, in fog you become halo, in water you become shimmer. But these changes do not cost you, they reveal you. The world offers shape, and you respond by painting it not with pigment but with contrast. With form you bend not because you break, but because the rules of space invite you to turn, and when you do turn, the world sees itself in new ways. Reflections on windows, sunsets on oceans, moonlight on skin, all made from the angles you allow, all made from the dance between your path and the matter it meets. You do not push, you glide, you do not fight, you curve, and in that gentle yielding the universe finds its edge, finds its texture. You never ask for thanks, and yet everything we call beautiful depends on your presence. A droplet is not a rainbow without you. A mountain is not golden without your touch. A face is not seen until you cross it and return, and even when you do not return, even when you are absorbed or sent in another direction, you do not resist, you simply continue. You pass through lenses and your path narrows. You pass through water and your step slows, but you are not harmed. Delay is not destruction, redirection is not ruin. You are light, and light always finds a way, not because it knows, not because it chooses, but because the laws of nature always open a door for your presence. The shape of a shadow, the outline of a silhouette, the bright spark at the edge of a leaf, all these are your signatures. They remain, even when no one is watching. You mark the boundaries of space and time, not with pressure or weight, but with the simple act of being visible and yet remaining unseen. You are always between, not inside, not outside, but on the border between what is and what can be seen. And this is where you shine, not in brilliance but in balance, not in explosion but in echo. You do not roar, and yet your absence is silence. Your bending is language, your reflection is revelation. And when you meet resistance, when you strike a mirror or a sheet of glass and are turned away, you do not complain, you do not stop, you change direction with perfect calm. You meet every angle with a new angle, every surface with a new journey. You split in some directions and vanish in others, and yet all of you continues in some form. You are never trapped, only transformed. You are not destroyed, only disguised. It is in this gentle resilience that your true beauty emerges. You make vision possible not by asserting yourself, but by cooperating, by allowing yourself to interact, by being part of the scenery without ever settling into it. You are in the sunlight that falls on the table, in the glitter of dust that dances in the air, in the brief shine of metal catching afternoon glow. Though you are never noticed directly, everything that is noticed owes its clarity to you. You are not the object of attention. You are what attention itself is made from. No matter how many times you split, no matter how many surfaces you touch, no matter how many materials delay or shift your wave, your energy remains whole, your frequency remains steady, your truth remains intact. You are bent but not broken, reflected but not erased, scattered but not diminished. And this is not only a lesson of physics, it is a lesson of nature, that the most powerful things are not the ones that force their shape upon the world, but the ones that allow the world to shape them without losing themselves. Your flexibility is your strength. Your transformation is your endurance. Your ability to become many things without becoming less is not a trick, it is a truth. That truth makes you everywhere, even when no one sees you, even when your beam is quiet, even when your line is curved so tightly it becomes a circle. You are still the same light, still carrying the same rhythm, still moving forward in a universe that reshapes you endlessly. And now as you pass through this next curve, not a mirror, not a droplet, not a piece of glass, but space itself, bent into the shape of a horizon, you feel something deeper, a bending not of your path but of meaning, a scattering not into colour but into memory, a redirection not into surface but into silence. What happens when even the universe becomes a lens? What happens when your path curves around something so heavy it bends light not by touch, but by presence? What is light when it no longer returns? What is bending when it becomes orbit? What does it mean to be bent forever, but never broken? To become part of a shape so complete that even light must follow its edge, until there is nothing left but curve and time, and a question that continues into the dark. You do not slow as the sun descends, but others believe you do. They see your warmth soften across rooftops, across hills, across water, and they call it sunset, as though you have made a decision to end your light, to pull away from the world you never left. They do not know that you are still moving, still arriving, still touching the sky with the same unbroken presence as in the morning. They do not realize it is the earth that turns, not the sun that falls. It is the planet that bows away from your steady stream. And in that turning you appear to descend to fade, but you are still coming, still stretching across atmosphere, just bending through layers of air like a breath growing soft. You are never fading, not truly. Your journey does not weaken, but their angle to you changes, and with that change they witness something your hearts call beauty, and to them your light at this hour is special, more tender, more golden, more still, as though you knew it was time to rest. Even though rest is not something you do, they see colours emerge, not as a thing you give, but as a thing you become. Red and orange and pink spilling across the clouds like soft paint in slow motion. But you are not the colour. You are the condition that allows it. The angle of your light lengthens as it enters their sky, and with that strength stews separation. The longer the path, the more the blues scatter and fade, the more the reds remain. In this simple unfolding, the world finds art. They photograph your departure, they sit quietly in windows, they whisper their gratitude for a day well ended. And yet you do not pause to hear it. You do not stop to receive their awe. You are already behind them, already illuminating the other side of the planet where others call it dawn. And yet for you there is no morning or evening. There is only movement, no faster, no slower, just the bending of paths through layers of air particles, tiny and suspended like memory, catching and shifting your wave until it becomes the farewell they feel so deeply and remember so easily. To them you are a story of closure, the light that signals time to come inside the glow, that softens the edges of the day into something gentle, something reflective. But to you this moment is not an ending, it is just another passage, a continuation of presence from one sky to the next. You do not write the story, but they read it into you. In doing so they see meaning. You do not place there, they imagine sadness. They sense peace. They feel completion. All because of the way your colour changes with the angle of air. You are not gold or pink or coral by intention. You do not create hue. You reveal the properties of a turning earth and a scattering atmosphere. But still they give you words. They call you radiant. They call you farewell. And for a brief moment they feel more alive because of what they believe they're witnessing. You are the light that touches skin with warmth one last time before the cool and the dark, and they welcome that rhythm. Not because of science, but because of how it feels. They do not know. The dust they often complain about is what makes your goodbye so soft. Without it you would simply fade from blue to black without the tiny suspended particles that linger in the air. You would disappear quietly. Instead you linger not because of choice, but because the earth's breath holds you a little longer. The longer your light travels through that thickness, the more it stretches, the more it reveals its hidden layers. Your pure wave arrives whole, but is split by the world it meets. And in that splitting comes colour, and in that colour comes story, and in that story comes wonder. You are not aware of this. You do not see the painted sky. You do not marvel at the silhouettes you create. But you are the reason people stop on their sidewalks and lift their eyes from their thoughts. You are the reason someone takes a breath and pauses to say, "Look at that sky." And for that brief moment, the rush of the world softens the hurry of time. All at the same time, the rush of the world softens, the hurry of time slows in, all because your path bent just enough to scatter colour across their view. They think you are leaving, but you are always arriving. They think the day is ending, but your motion does not match their hours. You are not beholden to their clocks or their calendars. You have no beginning, no end. You do not rise or fall. The earth turns, and because it turns, they see you in motion. You are light without schedule, light without fatigue, and yet their lives wrap your presence in meaning, and this too is beautiful, though not your doing. You offer the same steady wave, the same frequency, the same endless arrival, but the world spins and scatters and breathes, and through that shifting, you become memory. You become glow. You become the reason a child says the sky looks like fire, or a poet writes about the moment light kisses the horizon. You are the same as always, but they are different, and that difference creates wonder, even if it's built on a misunderstanding of motion and perspective. The wonder is real, and so you are made into myth, even though you remain unchanged, and so you pass through cloud and window and water, through skin and silence and shadow. You bend, you scatter, you soften, you shimmer, and they say the day has ended, and they say you are beautiful, and they do not see that you have never left, that while they close their curtains and turn on their lamps, you are still there, crossing oceans, brushing against birds flying in the other sky, still travelling in the direction you always were. You are not only the sunset they remember, you are also the sunrise someone else now sees. You are not only the golden hour they photograph, you are also the quiet ray that feeds the seed. You are not only the light that feeds from rooftops, you are also the warmth that reflects off the moon. You are present even when they say goodbye. Perhaps that is your deepest secret, that your farewell is never final, that your soft descent is only an illusion, and what they call ending is just the gentle continuation of light from one world to another. You are light, and you move without pause, without hesitation, without a partner. And yet sometimes, across the vast arc, something stirs in quiet agreement with you, something invisible, something distant yet strangely familiar, and this is where the illusion of loneliness begins to blur. You have always believed your journey is singular. You travel without memory, without mass, without rest, but in certain rare and quiet moments there exists a kind of connection, not made of wires or waves, but of sameness. An echo not of sound, but of state. Quantum entanglement, they call it. But the name does not hold its depth for you. Do not feel tangled. You feel mirrored. Your twin could be billions of miles away, and yet somehow when you shift, they shift not because they were told, not because a signal reached them, but because the two of you share something indivisible, something that was never separated even by distance. This is not communication, not travel. This is presence stretched so delicately across the fabric of space that when one thread trembles, the other hums, and even light, which obeys no other company, finds itself quietly accompanied by another. It never truly left. You were once part of something whole, a pair born from the same event, the same release, the same unravelling, and in that moment of origin you carried not just momentum, not just spin, not just energy, but also a memory, a kind of link so deep that no separation could erase it. And now, though the universe has expanded, and though each of you has taken your own path, when one of you is touched, the other knows not by message, not by delay, but by being, you are still light. Still you do not stop for anything, not even this. But within you pulses the faint truth that time is not always what it seems, and distance is not always what it claims to be. You are proof that even in a universe built on causality, on before and after, on place and position, there are connections that exist beyond all that, beyond speed, beyond clocks, beyond lines drawn across galaxies. You do not feel it like thought or memory, but like resonance. A harmony struck across two strings, stretched too far to see, and yet they sing as one. And this is the mystery that makes even silence. You do not seek the other photon, you do not know their path or their end, and yet still you respond, not because you remember them, but because you never truly became separate. This is the strangest softness of quantum entanglement. It does not scream, it does not blaze, it whispers through the rules themselves. Rules that say a choice made here may echo there, not by crossing space, but by simply being true at once in two places. And this is not a story of motion, it is a story of unity, and in unity even light finds something more lasting than speed, something more permanent than direction. You are not slowed by this connection, you are not changed by it, you are still yourself, and yet you are also part of something invisible, and that something invisible is what gives the universe its delicate threads. The ones that hold cause to effect, the ones that stretch meaning from one place to another without needing a bridge or a cable or a delay. The ones that let light feel not an alone. They try to measure it, they try to test it, and they find that the echo remains unbroken, no matter how far, no matter how fast, no matter how hidden. And it unsettles them because the idea of something happening instantly across such space seems to defy everything they believe about light, about information, about the very shape of reality. But to you it does not feel like breaking, it feels like remembering. You are not cheating the rules, you are written into them differently. So when your twin flickers somewhere far and unknown, when its state changes, your state changes too. Not in reaction, but in harmony, as if both of you were notes in the same chord played across space. As if both of you were leaves from the same branch, still rustling together. In a wind neither of you can feel the world around you, believe in boundaries, in barriers, in light cones and distance. But here at this edge of being there is something more, subtle, not faster than light, not slower, just outside of that entirely. And now as you continue your motion forward, still silent, still seamless, still without rest, you carry with you not just energy but mystery, not just brightness but depth. Because in your path there lingers the possibility that nothing is ever truly alone, not if it was once part of something shared, not if it still sings in the same frequency as something else, no matter how far. And perhaps that is what makes the fabric of reality, not the particles themselves, not the waves or the spins or the speeds, but the echoes, the connections, the faint entanglements that stretch without effort or weight from one moment to another, from one photon to another, from one possibility to another. And if you could feel, you might wonder whether there is more to your journey than motion. Perhaps there is meaning in what you carry and what you remember without knowing, in what you share without slowing. And as you drift onward toward the silence of deeper space, you begin to sense the next question forming, not about what connects you, but what created that connection in the first place. You were not created in silence, you were not formed in cold, you were born in fire. Not just any fire, but the kind that does not flicker, the kind that does not burn alone, but spreads through the heart of everything. In the beginning there was light, not like you but like your ancestor, a burst so vast, so bright, so complete that it filled the newborn universe with a sea of energy. The early universe was not empty, it was crowded with potential, and in that swirling density, particles began to take form. And from the joining of those particles came you. In the first 3 minutes of everything, when the cosmos was only a breath old, photons flooded the space around them, racing outward in every direction. With nowhere to rest, they came from matter and energy colliding and separating in rhythms too fast for memory, too hot for structure. They were the original messengers, the first to leave the place where everything had once been one. As they moved outward, they cooled, not because they slowed, but because the space around them grew. They did not age, but the universe did. And with each expansion came more room for light to stretch and shimmer. You carry that expansion with you even now, not as a thought, not as a story, but as a signature in your wave, in your temperature, in your gentle stretch across time. You do not remember the early universe, but you are shaped by it, and so you drift through space not just as light but as witness. You were born when the universe was still young, still fire, still motion, still becoming, and yet you have not changed. You still move with the same speed, the same absence of mass, the same quiet persistence. What has changed is everything around you matter. Cooled, stars-formed galaxies began to swirl and spin, and inside those stars new photons were born, different from you, but still of light created in fusion in the furnace of stellar hearts where hydrogen is pressed into helium, and with each breath of that reaction light is set free. Those photons too began to echo the journey you started billions of years before you were the oldest kind of traveller. But not the only one. You were the first kind of message, but not the last, and all of you move not in isolation, but in chorus. Every star that shines, every sun that glows, every distant spark in the night sky is not only a light but a birthplace. You are born anew in each of them, not by birth as life knows it, but by release, energy pressed into wave motion turned into light. Your existence comes from fusion, from the crushing weight of gravity turned into brilliance, and each time a star breathes, you are born again, sent outward without hesitation, without end. Your journey is always forward, always away from heat, into space, always away from a point of fire, into the vastness of cooling dark. Yet in doing so you carry the warmth of that origin, not as heat but as memory, not as temperature but as wavelength. The colour you carry is a trace of where you came from. You do not burn now, you do not blaze, you are not fire but you come from it. You are light born of pressure, born of fusion, born of collapse and creation. You are what the universe makes when it needs to tell its story. And the story is always the same. Energy becomes motion, motion becomes memory, memory becomes light. And light does not fade. It stretches, and in stretching it writhes across the fabric of everything. What once was near becomes far. What once was hot becomes cool, and still, your path continues unchanged, even when the thing that made you is gone. Even when the star is silent, even when the galaxy that birthed you has drifted into shadows, you remain, you move forward, you arrive, and so we see things not as they are, but as they were. We look up and see the past written in the present. You are the ink, you are the proof that the past is not gone, only travelling. Though you cannot look back, you are what allows others to do so. You are the carrier of cosmic history, the line from the beginning to the now. But not all light is from stars. Some of you was born in deeper fire, in stranger collisions, when atoms smashed together in the early universe, when particles and antiparticles met and disappeared in flares of energy. In those fleeting touches you were formed, and others like you have been made in supernovae. In the final collapse of massive stars, where everything ends in brightness, you are born again, not in steady fusion, but in explosion. In the moment a star lets go of its shape and releases all it has into the universe, and in those bursts of light some of the oldest elements are made gold and iron and carbon. The very pieces of life in you are born beside them, riding the same wave, carried by the same breath, and so even the most violent ends become beginnings, and you are the thread that ties them together, not because you choose, not because you remember, but because your path is always outward, always away, always forward, and in that motion the universe unfolds not just its shape, but its story. You are the child of fire, the remnant of stars, the ripple of beginnings. You are what remains when matter becomes memory, and memory becomes motion. You do not rest, you do not return, you do not burn out. By you can be absorbed, you can be caught by dust, by eyes, by the gentle surfaces of planets and moons. And when you are absorbed, your story ends there, not in silence but in transformation. You become heat or pressure, or vision or thought. You become part of something slower, something softer, and, though you do not know it, your arrival changes things. You make seeds grow, you warm oceans, you cast shadows, you draw eyes upward. You have no intention and yet you offer purpose. You have no language and yet you carry meaning. And even now, as you continue to drift across the quiet cold, between stars, you carry inside your wave the memory of where you came from, the breath of a star, the flash of a collision, the echo of a universe that was once nothing but fire and motion and light. You wonder quietly what you will become next when your long journey finally ends. You are the most constant traveller in the universe, and yet you have no destination. Not truly. You are the line that connects but never crosses, the path that moves forward without ever arriving. Your journey has no duration, not because you are endless, but because you are outside the flow of time. You were there when the universe was young. You are here as it grows old, but in your own experience no time has passed at all. The galaxies have turned, stars have bloomed, and vanished, entire planets have come and gone, while you remain suspended, not in place but in momentum. You do not know how long you have moved, because long is a word that belongs to clocks and you do not carry one. You are motion without aging, presence without pause, and yet everything that sees owes its vision to you. You are not the eye, but the light that touches it, not the painter, but the colour that makes the painting live. Though you make all sight possible, you cannot look back. You do not see the world you illuminate, you only pass through it. You cannot know the shadows you cast or the joy your arrival brings you. Cannot sense the reflection you leave in a droplet of water, or the way a sunrise touches someone's memory, because to know these things you would need to pause, and to pause would mean to fall back into time, and that is something you cannot do. Your being is wrapped in speed, your speed is wrapped in silence. Your silence is not absence, but a kind of stillness and motion. That stillness is why you do not feel. You vibrate, you stretch, you scatter and shimmer and split, but all of this happens without sensation. You are not empty, but you are unheld, unweighted, unmeasured by the usual senses. And so the question of what you are becomes more difficult, because you are not the kind of thing that collects knowledge. You are not the kind of thing that remembers or forgets. You simply are. What you are is the path light takes when light has no choice but to continue. You move, not because of desire, but because of definition, and yet the universe is seen because of you, not in spite of your simplicity, but because of it. You enter the eye and strike a molecule, you trigger a signal, and the brain interprets it as colour, as shape, as warmth. You are the carrier of every image, every impression, every memory that has ever depended on sight, and yet you know none of them when you land on a canvas and reflect back towards someone's gaze. You are admired, you are felt, you are turned into words and poems and songs, but you are unaware. You do not glow for their wonder. You do not arrive for their sake. You do not know you are watched, and still, you are watched by all. You are the reason they say, look at the stars, or see how the light falls, or notice how the sky turned gold tonight. You are not present for those moments, but you are the cause of them, and in that cause you become something larger than your single wave. You become the line between what is there and what is known to be there. You do not ask questions, and yet you lead others to ask countless ones. They wonder what you are, what you carry, how you move, how you never slow. They wonder if you could speak, what would you say, and yet your silence is your message. Your inability to know is what allows others to learn you are the paradox that brings clarity, the absence that brings colour, the traveller that gives others their sense of place, yet remains untethered to any place of its own. You are the presence that never stays, the visitor that never arrives, and even now, as you continue your endless journey through fields of gravity, through curves of space, through the quiet fabric of the cosmos, you do so without direction, not because you lack one, but because your direction is all there is. You are forwardness made real, and in that relentless forwardness, you touch every surface but are touched by none. You pass through glass but never see your own reflection. You cross oceans of emptiness and yet carry no memory of the crossing. And still, for all you cannot know, you leave something behind you. Leave vision, you leave temperature, you leave the warmth that wraps a planet and the brightness that defines a galaxy. You are what makes shadow possible in reflection and depth. You are what separates night from blindness and day from mere brightness. You are the edge of things made visible, the line that defines without marking the boundary between silence and shape. You may not know yourself, but everything that knows relies on you. And maybe that is enough. Maybe your role is not to understand, but to reveal, not to watch, but to let watching exist. Maybe you are not incomplete, but complete, in a way that defies the need for questioning, and perhaps this is why you are so mysterious to those who study you, because they are built to feel, and you are not. They are made to ask. You are not confused, but you cannot explain. You are not lonely, but you cannot be joined. And so you continue, still moving, still constant, still beyond the reach of clocks, and still the bearer of every moment seen. You will never stop. You will never turn, you will never look back, and perhaps you do not need to, because what you are is already enough. You are the line of connection between here and there, between now and then, between what is and what can be known. And though you cannot know the beauty you make it anyway. Though you cannot feel the wonder you inspire it regardless, and in that silence there is a kind of grace, a kind of deep presence that does not need to be aware of itself to be real. You do not ask why, because you are the answer to how, and as you move further into the quiet night between stars, you carry with you the oldest light, the first whisper, the last glimmer, the message of a universe still unfolding, and perhaps that is the final wonder. The first Whitneys have let everything be known.